fucking cry.
Monkey D. Goofy. D. Goofy. I'm just flopping this bad guy.
Why would they do that, bro?
Bro, because it's get you ready, don't Yeah! No!
Yes. Another wonderful day at the movies. People. I can't say wonderful. Is that a stretch? I don't know. Let's hop into it. All right. So, all situated. What is good, people? It's your boy T-Rav. I'm back again. Another movie review. Right now we have the Babylon review, y'all. And I know that this is a movie that might have gone under some people's radars, especially considering the time that it's come out in. It's like directly competing against ones like Avatar and things like that. And honestly, I heard that this wasn't a very big hit in the box office, which is a shame to a degree. But at the same time, they had to be more strategic about when they choose to come out. You know what I'm saying? This one stars Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, and forgive me because I forget the other actor's name, but the guy who plays Manny. Yo, what a crazy movie. Now, in terms of a total movie, this is really more like an homage to the development of Hollywood and how it progressed going all the way back to when movies didn't even have sound and stuff like that. So it starts kind of back in like 1926, but through the 20s and then into the 30s, you see that they are fully making that transition to including sound in their movies. Now, Brad Pitt plays a character named Jack Conrad, who is already seen as, you know, the Brad Pitt of his time, you know what I'm saying? He's the top guy or whatever, been in hella hits apparently, and Margot Robbie is playing a chick named Nellie Leroy, who is an unknown. She's never been in anything or whatever, nothing like that, but she already has the charisma of being a star. And we first get introduced to both of them at this crazy party, I guess, that Jack Conrad's putting on, or maybe that's just kind of the role that he assumes since he's the top dog of Hollywood. Whenever they go to these crazy parties, it seems like he's kind of the one in charge and, you know, helping people out or, you know, back and doing his thing, you know what I'm saying? But, yo, like, to start out this movie, like, the guy who plays Manny, he's coming in, he's importing an elephant, basically, to be entertainment at this party that Jack Conrad's throwing. And it's wild, dog. Like, there's just shocking shit that, no pun intended, the shocking stuff that happens in this movie that is like, what the hell am I watching right now? That's the type of stuff that is happening. And I believe, like, there was another movie came out 2 years ago or something like that, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with Leo, Brad Pitt, and I think Margot Robbie was in that one as well. I might be, she might not have been. I think that was another chick. But regardless, it's kind of playing that type of time period, you know what I'm saying, where it's real life and inspired by true events, so to speak. But obviously, there's no way to truly confirm how much of this is fact or fiction. But you know, it clearly takes place in this set time when Hollywood's at its infancy or whatever, right? But Manny is basically, he's a nobody as well, and you know, he's come from Mexico with his parents when he was 12 years old. They crossed the border or whatever, live in California. But you can clearly tell that he's the type that wants something more, you know what I'm saying? He wants to be involved with Hollywood, like, because he's never done none of that before, but he wants to be a part of something bigger. Now, we find out all this because him and Margot Robbie start doing lines and stuff like that, or whatever else drugs that they're taking. I mean, when I say that this is taking place in the roaring 20s, people, I mean, like, for real. In this party that they're at, it's madness. Like, people just fucking on the floor, people dancing their asses off. The black jazz players like Sidney Palmer and folks is going hard as hell. I mean, this is some carnival, Mardi Gras type stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to talk about debauchery, like, it's happening right now. So it's like, it's madness all around him or whatever. But to sneak her into the party kind of vouches for her or whatever, because it's crazy because, like, each of these characters start assuming different jobs, mainly Manny, like, where it's like okay, in order to make his way, I'm just gonna fucking hop in and do this shit that's asked of me, even though like that's not really my job or my job description. I'm just here to bring some entertainment, and yet I'm kind of in here acting like a pseudo host in this party. So it's wild on when it comes to stuff like that. He sneaks Margot Robbie, and they start doing lines, and they start talking about each other's dreams, and you know, Nelly is the character that Margot Robbie plays, but like I said, she's an unknown. She's never been in anything before, nothing like that. But she wants to get into the film business. And it's for a totally different reason than Manny. But you can tell, obviously, she wants to be a part of something bigger. But at the same time, she wants to prove everybody wrong that's ever doubted her. Like her family, clearly she comes from a poor background that we know of. We never really get much insight into that. Her dad does show up during the film as she's kind of making her way or whatever, and he's her manager, which you can kind of tell what that relationship is. It's almost like a Elvis-esque type of deal where that's like her colonel basically. But she just talks about how all the kids back home would say that she's not good enough. The teachers would say she ain't good enough. Her family would say the same thing. So she basically just wants to stick it to all of them. And now I'm about to take my shot and make it all the way to where I gotta be. You know what I'm saying? But right now she's just like a party girl, it seems like. Just trying to, get around the right people to get her shot. Manny is different because, like I said, he came from Mexico, 12 years old, his parents, but he never even goes to see him or nothing like that. So he's really trying to be out here, make it on his own. I wish we would have got a little bit more in terms of their actual backgrounds in terms of these characters, because that's one thing that I would say is definitely a little flaw with this movie, is that you're not going in and really seeing what's going on behind the scenes. It kind of makes sense for Manny because he literally just don't see his family. But for Nelly, we kind of wish we had a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you got to go full on flashback mode, but like, how did her mother get to how she is? Because we see her and she's at a home, so to speak. It seems like a home for crazy folks. So there's no telling what she went through when she was young. And the way her father acts, it's like, you could tell he's clearly not that good of a dude. I forget his name too, but he's a legit actor. And he's just like, you could tell what he is, bro. He's not there for her benefit whatsoever. And honestly, she's the type that needs it. Because when you see her going to this party, she literally she moves different than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? She stands out. She becomes the star. And she has this line that she tells to Manny, like, from jump. Like, no, I'm a star. Like, you either are or you're not. And regardless if I haven't been in nothing yet, I am that one. I am the hype. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that mindset and that ego that she has is what's going to give her eventually that shot, if she could just get around the right people, which definitely seems like it's happened during this party, because after a bunch of crazy ass shit that goes down at this party, I mean, midgets jerking off giant dildos and fat dudes in back rooms getting peed on by other actresses, like I said, debauchery at the highest level, dog. Like, and then obviously you got the elephant coming through, the chick that was playing with the big man in the back room. She was actually an actress meant to be on set the next day, young chick. Well, apparently she dies up there or whatever, and then that's how Nelly gets her shot, because they see how she's moving in the party, and she literally becomes the life of the party just like that. Take it center stage, basically. They're like, yeah, just get her and make her go out to set or whatever at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't think they got done partying until like fucking 5. So that's how Nelly gets her way in. But you see that Manny's been watching this all night, and he's like, man, like, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't have my way. I can tell. Like, you could see that he knows that Nelly she's a star, bro. Like, it's no other way around it. Like, you can see how in awe that he was of her throughout the night or whatever. And it goes back to that conversation that they had. You could see that she is really trying to be that one-of-a-kind person that no one holds down, and she's just out here doing her thing. And he even kind of lets it slip at the end of the night, like, that he kind of loves her, I think. But she kind of takes off because she stole a car to get there or whatever. So she's like a firecracker, bro. She comes out with a bang, but obviously when you have people like that, the shelf life isn't super long. But she starts taking off because when they do get out to this set, and Manny actually manages to make his way onto the set as well, because he takes Jack Conrad home. Because Conrad's fucked up. He was still drinking consistently all the way through the night, but he was fucked up. Manny takes him home, and then all of a sudden this nigga pops back up, and he's just going. He's just talking and saying all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're going to come with me. You're going to be my guy on the set or whatever, and we're going to go do this. How Hollywood was back then, if that's an actual depiction of how Hollywood truly used to be, is crazy, dog. And obviously you can get away with a lot more back then because you didn't have sound in the films. Like, I guess you put sound over the films later, if you did have that, or you just didn't have that. So that was interesting how they were able to film like hella productions all at the same time, and they're all basically happening right next to each other. You have booths of just scenes being laid out in like the jungle or in space or wherever, and it's just like hella directors and hella actors in each of these scenes. And you know, Nelly gets thrown into this scene of like it's like a bar scene where she's coming in there to be the flirtatious girl and rile up all the men, I guess. I don't know what it was really about, to be honest. It's some Hollywood shit, you know, back in the day. But Manny gets in there and he just starts doing all types of stuff for Conrad. And Conrad starts drinking again, so he's going to get prepped for his movie. His scene's not going to be shot to the end of the day. And we're starting at like 8 o'clock in the morning. First thing he has to do, he's like, hey, go tell those folks over there that there's not going to be a strike. And it's like hundreds on hundreds of workers down there. And it seems like they've been sweating their ass off. They've been out there for days. It looks like they've been in the coal mines, to be quite honest. This shit's crazy. And then Manny goes down there and he's like, listen, I know y'all aren't happy with the work condition. And one of them was like, fuck all that. I said that the next nigga that comes down here is going to try and fuck us over, and I'm going to kill him. So you see this whole mob of people going on in the background chasing after Manny. Meanwhile, Jack Conrad's just up there talking, shooting the shit about whatever. I guess seeing the status of the movie shoot and whatnot. And you see a madness going on in the background. All of a sudden, Manny commandeers a gun and a horse, and then he starts dumping on these niggas. He's like, get back to work. And Jack Conrad turns around and sees that shit, and he's like, oh, yeah, I told you Manny was great. Like, yo, like, it's so cool how Manny, like, it's funny as hell, and it's just wild shit, but you see how Manny is, like, just taking advantage of this opportunity. And whether or not Conrad really saw that in him, like, man's taking care of what he needs to take care of, you know what I'm saying? And a female director that's doing Nelly's scene sees her acting throughout the day, and she's really starting to favor her a lot because she's literally like crying on command. She's like adapting to all the things that she's asking her to do, and it gets absurd, bro, because she's literally like, okay, 1 tier, 2 tier, when do you want me to do it on this time? Like, it's just fucking ridiculous, but clearly Nelly has talent, and from there that stuff apparently takes off and they start moving up the ranks or whatever. You know, Manny's still doing his thing with Conrad. Oh, and a funny thing to wrap up that whole day of craziness is you had this crazy ass German director or something like that who's doing Conrad's film, and I guess that's the main shoot of the whole thing, right? That's the one where the big old war scene's going down. And let it be known, niggas is actually dying during this war scene. It was just crazy because there's a nigga that they find after a whole battle scene goes down, and he literally has a flag through his fucking chest. This nigga's dead. It's crazy as hell. But they kind of just like, oh, well, you know, kind of happens. He ran into it himself. Like, who the fuck is believing this? I don't know. But they've gone through this whole day, and it's gotten pushed all the way back to like 5 o'clock, almost 6 o'clock, because the sunset's coming. And the problem is that they ran out of cameras. Apparently, they destroyed like 10 cameras and shit. Because I don't think y'all quite understand how volatile this Hollywood scene is. Like, you got explosions going off all around the tents that they're actually in and stuff like that. And it seems like niggas is just fucking done shit. You just kind of got to survive out there. It's actually wild as hell. There's no OSHA back then, dog. There ain't no safety regulations back then, dog. You just doing the shit. And you ain't got enough time to be checking these things and double checking and all that. All right, so 10 of their cameras got destroyed. Manny has to go down in town and rent a camera. And bro, the fucking dickheads at the camera shop, dog. He was like, yeah. I need this model camera. And they're like, okay, do you need the 2708 or the 2709? It's like, nigga, I don't. Just give me a fucking camera, dog. And he's like, oh, is there a difference? And the clerk's like, hey, this guy. He's actually, there's a difference between the 2708 and the 27. It's like, fuck you, nigga. And then, on top of all that, they ain't got the camera on hand. So he's like, yeah, next customer will be back in 30 minutes. This nigga Manny waited for like 2 hours, dog. And so as soon as somebody walks through the door, he grabs that bitch. He goes and he steals the ambulance, I guess, so he can get through traffic fast as fuck. And he makes it back barely on time for the sunset and shit. And the director's happy as fuck. He got his shit. They're like, okay, let's go. We're losing light. And then you go and you see Conrad. This nigga is fucking sloshed, nigga. He's fucking gone, man. That shit was wild, son. This nigga can barely stand up. He's got to walk up this big old hill and all this other stuff. He's the main actor of the whole thing. The whole thing. And they get up there and, bro, this nigga looks like he's literally like bent over like he's about to throw up, all this other stuff. He's stumbling and fumbling. He gets up there. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's done. Like, we can't get it because this nigga can't get it together. And then all of a sudden, and like action, this nigga fucking, I don't know what the fuck happened to him. God came over this nigga, he summoned the fuck up, and they hit that fucking scene at the perfect time of the perfect light. That shit was dumb as hell, boy. Dumb as hell. Oh my God. Well, like I said, this at this point, Conrad's still going crazy. He's still the number one. And, you know, Nelly is making her way because she becomes the new discovery girl of, like, I think it was Kinescope or something like that. It's the name of the movie studio, and they're directly competing against like MGM, or I'm not sure if they're MGM and then vice versa. But Nelly's taking off. She's getting different roles, all this other stuff. Manny is kind of doing his thing, you know, making his way, and eventually Manny gets like an opportunity, it looked like, to direct, but then eventually just become a whole studio executive over MGM, dog. Which is crazy because like his development was the slowest compared to Nelly, and obviously Conrad's still where he's at, but the man went from nothing to studio executive, and you start seeing that later on in the movie when people come to him. And even like Lady Faye from the first party, who I'm not really sure what her role was, to be honest. I do think that was a bit of an unnecessary inclusion of a character because she was cool and I wanted to know about her, but we just never learned nothing. And in the end, she just moves off to Europe. It seems like she was involved with the film industry to a degree. I don't know if she was a main actress herself or whatnot. She kind of got pushed out because, you know, she swung the other way and she had some feelings going on for Nelly and whatnot, which almost culminated a couple times, but it never quite got there. You know what I'm saying? But Conrad starts taking a dip because the movie industry is changing now. I think it's like 1928 or 1932, and they're on the precipice of like sound being captured as we know it during the movies, you know what I'm saying? Which is a hard thing for my boy to adapt to, you know what I'm saying? It's a whole other beast when you're not just having to act and do the facial expressions and all that. You're having to capture the emotion and make it sound legit and sound real. And plus, the technology back then is like super, it's just brand new, dog. So it's not great. Like, you got to stand in certain spots so certain mics can pick you up if you don't hit certain marks at the exact time. It's all fucked up. So he's struggling with that. Nelly seems like she was struggling at first, and there was a really funny whole scene of her in another shoot where she's playing some Jersey girl back from college or whatever. Then it almost looked like a sitcom type setup, but this was when it was first, like they're in an actual studio now at Hollywood, and they're going through, and it takes them like 7-8 takes to get it done. But they finally get it done after a lot of sound issues and all this other stuff going on. And even the guy I think that was shooting the movie died in that one. It's like, because he was in a fucking hot box, basically, while having to shoot the movie. Don't know why that was necessary, but hey, I guess that's just how it was back then. But, she's making her way, but at the same time, it seems like people are kind of fading on her career as well, because they see her as like too much. She's just risque, and she's from like basically bumfuck nowhere. Most people seem to view her as just like a pair of tits and ass, to be honest. And it's like, you know, they don't view her as somebody who has a lot of talent, which we've seen up close and personal. But she's a wild cannon at the same time, where she goes out and she parties so damn hard, and she's like wired up basically at all times. She's uncontrollable, so it's hard to take all of that along with the fact that she's got talent when the talent's not overwhelming. The tolerance for a super talented person's always going to be higher when like the things that you provide and the product that you're giving out consistently is like, okay, well, we'll just live with all that. That's how it was for like a long time. But once that transition happened where sound started being included in the movies, it seemed like she wasn't quite catching up with that curve as well, which is surprising because she was a brand new actor. And I could have thought that she would adapt to it a little bit better. But I think clearly it was everything surrounding the life of being in Hollywood that was bringing her down, stuff like that. And the same with Jack Conrad, just in a different way. He had been in the movie so long, and like 20 plus years, something like that. And now the scene switches up on him like this. Like, even when he's doing premieres now, like, one of the first one he does after all this has gone down is, I don't know, some dramatic black and white film, but people are literally laughing and clowning him in the theaters. And there's not a specific reason why given. I do think personally is that he just wasn't a very good actor at that time. You know what I'm saying? He was fine in this role before, but when you add the sound to it, I mean, like, stuff was just coming off corny. It didn't seem like he put as much effort as he should have into actually perfecting his craft in terms of being an actor. Because he battles with all the women in his life about how what I do matters. What I do is a form of high art. Like, don't look at paintings on the wall and think my shit is just insignificant compared to that, because it's not. Like, the shit that we do matters because people are gonna see that, and it's gonna last through time. Like, to a degree, he has a hell of a point. Like, movies and entertainment and cinema and shows and all that stuff, this shit is here to stay. Like, once it's been produced, it could last a lifetime, just depending on who happens to pick it up in 50 years or whatever. And the gossip journalist that's been involved in the whole movie or whatnot, she's the one that has to break that down to him. She was like, there's gonna be hundreds of Jack Conrads. There's gonna be hundreds of me. You know what I'm saying? That's part of it. This thing is bigger than us. But just take solace in the fact that you've done something to where now, even if it's like 100 years in the future, if somebody pulls that thing out of that vault, that film, and sees you, gets to hear you, they're gonna feel like they know you, like you're their friend. Like, that's really profound, because like, he didn't have that perspective of seeing it like that, and he thought he did, because what he had been saying during this whole time about wanting to innovate the cinema and take it to that next level, because he was the main one trying to push it forward. But once it did shift forward on him, and he wasn't the exact cause of it, or he wasn't able to kind of keep up with it, so to speak, he couldn't take it, bro. He couldn't take it. And I don't think it's a fault of his own. It's just once you've hit that level, to not be at that level anymore, how can you just exist as a failure or just even an average person at that point? Because clearly he was starting to pick up roles now where they were garbage and they were literally calling him to come bail him out. Yeah, he was the highest paid actor, but it was like, you know, we don't see a whole lot of you, but your name's gonna draw anyway, so might as well come bail us out of failing projects. So that's kind of what Jack Conrad was going through during that whole time. And the situation with Nelly continues to deteriorate because like Manny puts it on his back to really try to resurrect her career. He comes to the executives with a whole plan of like 4 or 5 movies like laid out for years to come on how to turn Nelly's image from a promiscuous woman to like a lady, one with real acting chops. And it seemed like she was starting on that path, but at the same time you've been hearing throughout the movie how when she's at parties or whatever and she overhears people talking, it's like, yeah, she's no good, she's trash, her voice is, and her father's a joke, it makes her look more corny. It's like, you know, she's hearing that chatter going around, it's clearly out there, right? So that's gonna build up some anger towards all this thing. You already know what her main kind of mission and drive for even being in this spot is in the first place. It's because so many people doubted her, and it's like now those walls are closing in again, but it's not just from family and friends and all that. It's literally from the world. And Manny, he's trying his hardest, lays out this whole plan. He's like having her get coaching and things like that. But to a degree, Nelly's not wrong because she doesn't have the stomach to play the politics known as the film game. You know what I'm saying? Like they go to this fancy schmancy ballet dinner, not ballet, but some banquet dinner with all these big wigs and things like that, you know, prim, proper, posh, fucking Dickinson dresses and I don't fucking know, you know, shit from way back then. And like some high society fancy ass party. And all these people was just talking nonsense. And you see it also happening to Sidney Palmer, who is a trumpet player who's been rising up at the same time throughout all this. And he started off as like just a little trumpet player when they was doing the first party. He's risen up and now he's playing for soundtracks for MGM and different stuff like that. But Manny had an idea to go ahead and start shooting them, like the people in who are doing the music, and it basically opened up the whole lane for televised musical performances and things like that. So that was sick as fuck. So you're seeing all the different things that Manny's doing, and the reason why he's kind of risen to this spot because he's seeing opportunities and he's taking them and he's filling markets that are clearly open, right? That's how he makes it all the way up to studio executive. But you also see at the same time when it comes to Sidney Palmer, he starts making compromises because he's reached the point that he's gotten to. The people at the studio couldn't adjust the lighting a certain time, and Sidney looked really washed out and bright because the lights were super, super bright on him, while the rest of the band was black as hell. You know what I'm saying? And it's not any fault of Sidney's, it's just how the light's hitting him. It's making him really washed out and more white than he should be. And they're like, well, due to demographics and yada, 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 we need his skin tone to match the rest. They literally take this dude a little jar of like black powder tar shit to put on his skin to make him look darker. It was some minstrel show shit. And after that happens, you know, Sidney makes it through it because he wants to make sure everybody else on the set is getting paid to do it. And that's where I have a problem with Manny, bro, because you don't do that, fam. Like, you're a minority as well. You should understand what, like, okay, what's right and what's really right, dog. To make a man go up there and basically do more blackface and, like, dog, I can't even, whoa. I can't. I wouldn't have been able to do it, bro. I'm sorry. You got me fucked up. You got me fucked up. You think I'm about to go put this fucking tar and all this bullshit on my face? You got me fucked up. And so I understand to a degree with what happened with Nelly too, because I'm not about to be paraded around all these fucking fuckheads who talk behind my back about how trash I am, call me a fucking Jersey delinquent and all this other stuff. Like, no, fuck them. Does she go overboard? Yes, because like at the end of the day, lashing out and doing the things that she does nothing, and it doesn't help her. It only reinforces these negative ideas that other people have about you. Do I think you have to compromise yourself like Sydney ended up choosing to do? No. And that's why it was so good that literally once he left that set that day, he's like, yeah, here's the ID card. I ain't fucking coming back. Fuck all that. But man, he's trying real hard to help Nelly, and she's just fucking over every opportunity that he's given her. And her father is running up debts in her name, and she's a compulsive gambler when she parties and different stuff like that. So like there's literal debt collectors coming for her ass, which is one whole sequence in the movie that literally made there was no reason to have it. No reason to have it. Tobey Maguire. He's supposed to play like McKay or something like that. I forget his first name or whatnot, but he's like the debt collector. Real weird dude. Like, just, he's really, really weird. And he takes Manny and the Count, which is basically his studio plug, to go to some really weird BDSM type shit way out in the boonies, I guess, where some rich people just go and watch fucked up shit. And he's trying to pitch him on, including a certain dude in Hollywood who's just eating rats, and it's like fucked up. It's just fucked up, right? And then they find out that the whole exchange for the debts that Nelly owed was not real because the Count didn't give Manny 85,000 actual fucking dollars. So they're basically being hunted now at this point. They gotta get out of town. He's gonna take Nelly with him. Conrad has killed himself at this point because, as I was saying earlier, all that weight of not being who he was, it was clearly too much. And he couldn't just live on just being a normal guy or a washed up product of who he was. So he actually does kill himself after he talks with Lady Faye one last time, which was really sad. That was honestly a shock in the movie, but at the same time, you could kind of tell that was coming. Like, considering his position and just his trajectory through the movie, you could tell it wasn't going to end well for him. And you could also tell the same thing for Nelly and stuff like that. But, you know, Manny's in the process of getting her out of town, and they stop at some place. I guess some quinceañera or something is happening. They go start dancing, or Nelly starts dancing or whatever. And so, you know, they're making their way out of town. He even asked her to marry him because he clearly loves this woman. And like, even when she came to him before and was like, had nobody else to ask to get her the $85,000, this was the only nigga that was even willing to try and do it. And he fucking lashed out on her ass, and he was so mad, and he was yelling at her, and she was like, don't be mad at me. He just remembers the times when like they first met and the different times they've run into each other as they're both like climbing up the ladder, and it's like, you know that he's not going to leave this woman behind. He loves the girl. He loves the girl more than anything, and it's clear because he's willing to run away and like throw away his whole life all to just be with her. And so they're making their way out of town. They make one last stop to go see the Count or whatever, to rendezvous with him, and then all three of them take off. A hitman pulls up when they're inside, and he kills the Count and his roommate, and he actually lets Manny go because like Manny's like, he's terrified, bro. He's got blood all over him because this nigga just shot him right in front of him, and he knows he's about to die. He's like, please, I'll leave. Like, don't kill me. Like, slight flash before his eyes, and he's like, just leave LA. He's like, all right, I'll do it. And he runs out, runs back to the car, and Nelly's not there. What had happened while he was inside, Nelly was, I guess, off some stuff still, and she got out of the car, and she started dancing in the street. And let me say that the soundtrack of this movie was sick through and through. The jazz music, the real cinematic shit that was going down, like with all the wild shit that goes down in the movie, when they choose to do serious shots, serious tone stuff, it still feels like you're in a wonderland. It's so whimsical, but at the same time, there's a dark side to all this, and that's Hollywood. That's what LA is. But I was saying, she was dancing down the street. She goes out into the middle of the street lamp. She's dancing, and then she dances all the way into basically the nothingness of the night. And we don't see her anymore, which is wild, because literally the first time that they met, she said that that's how she wanted to go out. She wanted to go dancing her ass off into the night. And that's what she did. You know, the movie flashes forward. Manny started up a family with some Latino woman. They have a kid. This is 1952 now, so basically 20 years removed. Clearly he's not working with the studio no more. They actually go back to the studio to visit and show, I guess, his kid where he used to work and all that. He hasn't been to the movies in a long time, so he goes and he watches. And I guess he watches a couple movies at once, but the different people in these movies are just like reminding him of Nelly and of Conrad and all the different people that he met along the way, and it literally brings him to tears. And it's crazy because you could see it, and you could see the evolution of the business that they hopped into when it was still so fresh, and now look what it's become. No, it's not the people like cheering in the crowds like how it used to be when movies was first coming out, because it's stuff they never seen before. But you pan through the crowd and you see people of all ages, all races, all being there together, connected. Like, that's what it is, and that's what the whole point, I really think, of the movie is just, it's not only the impact that these characters had on the film industry, or lack thereof, you go argue, or the impact of the industry and how it was on them, and how it literally led to it led to their downfall. They reached greater heights than they had ever reached, and it all came crashing down with just a few fateful decisions. But also the impact of the cinema on us, like the place that we go to escape and see stories that it'd be hard to tell these things otherwise, and you get transported into wherever just to view these great ass stories. So that's why I say that this whole film was essentially just an homage to the film industry and how far that has come, especially from way back then. So that was definitely the whole big point of the movie. I would say if I had nitpicks, the movie was definitely way too long. 3 hours and 10 minutes long, to be exact, people. Okay, now I understand for something like Avatar, that was still a little too long too. This one was much too long for that. Okay, the whole Tobey Maguire sequence, we could have cut that out. We could have cut out, let me think, just a couple of the different Hollywood scenes. We could chop them down a little bit. Like, there were things we could do, we could have cut out at least 30 minutes of this film. I do feel like it had to be a little long, maybe 2.5 hours, but not 3 hours 10, bro. Like, I mean, come on now. We could have told the story a little bit quicker than that. But the characters in general, like, they're really good characters, but at the same time, they don't, like, it's hard to say, because, like, what you come to at the conclusion of the movie is that kind of what Eleanor said. It's like, you know, there's going to be a ton of us, and there's going to be more to come. This whole thing is bigger than us, so it makes you feel like these three people are just ones in hundreds of thousands that have come and passed through Hollywood and reached stardom, failed, gotten recycled, and repeated that whole shit all over again. And that's basically the kind of point that you're led to by the end of this movie, which I think was a bit disappointing, because, like, I don't know if there was a way we could have shown more light on how much impact that they actually had on the business, but I think it was clearly meant to just show us that, like, how the circumstances they were placed in didn't necessarily change them, but it just made them more of who they really were, which was, it was tragic to a degree. It really was. So a bittersweet movie. It was like really funny at times. It was just wild as hell at times. But at the same time, to watch them fall like that, and we even see a newspaper clipping that Nelly passed away at 34. Like, what happened with all that? That's why I feel like if we're gonna have a movie this long, I need to go and I need to see their backgrounds or how they got this way or their final endings of like how it really all played out. Because to a degree, we got that more with Conrad than anybody else, I think. And I do think that they were trying to focus more on Nelly and Manny in terms of like the main vehicles that were driving the story. In my mind, it seems like Conrad was more the old guard that was like kind of passing on the torch. But I think that his character got wrapped up, you know, it was the most clean and like just clean cut. Like, we know how his story ends and all that stuff. We get to see the journey that he really went on. We see the journey that the other two went on, but we're missing little bits that I feel like would make their character stand out a whole lot more. But that's just me. I think that the director's sick in this movie. Soundtrack is sick in this movie. Like I said, runtime, and then just the resolution of the characters, or just really the main impact that they have on just the story, because they don't really impact the story too much, I would say. They just kind of move the plot forward, to be honest. So for all that reasoning that I give, I know I've been long-winded tonight, people forgive me. I give this movie a, this pains me. I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Now, the reason why I say a 6.5 is because I had big expectations for this movie, dog. Alright, I'm not gonna lie to you. When you have the cast that you have, I mean, it should go, I mean, that's expectations. Come on now. Like, you got big time actors in this. This should be a fire movie through and through. I definitely say I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood much more. Because in the same way, it's just like, it's kind of the same kind of formula. You're watching like multiple stories and seeing how they culminate in this one big thing. But I like how it was done in that movie better than this one. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just too long, and I don't think the characters. I don't know. I think that they could have done more. I think that they could have done more with them at the end of the day. But let me know what y'all thought about everybody in the movie. Have you seen the movie? Are you gonna go check it out? I wouldn't say that this is have to watch it in theaters. To be honest, I won't say that. I think you can wait till this comes out on HBO Max or wherever and just watch it that way. It'll be just fine. Because I don't think this is going to be in the theaters a lot longer, people. I hate to say it, but when I did go earlier, there was only a couple other people in the theater. Like I said, pick your timing better when you're coming out. All right, I'm just saying. But definitely a one to watch for sure. I wouldn't say like I wouldn't watch it. I would recommend to watch it if you have some time, but don't feel pressed like you got to watch it. Let me know what y'all thought about the characters, the movie in general, all of the movies really recently, because as you already know, my Mahdi Awards is not around the corner. They're basically here, y'all, okay? I'm dropping that shit the first day of the year, all right? Sunday night. So I'm going to have that done Saturday, be editing that bitch up, and we going to get that motherfucker out. So y'all look out for that. Let me know any other movies that I should try and cram in right fast. I know we're coming down to the wire, but I try to get up here, people. I'm coming to y'all with more reviews, more trailers, more interviews, more podcasts, all that other bullshit. It's been your boy T-Rav, and I'm out. Yeah.